Welcome back to the Human Observation Lab. I am New York, your host and observer. Today, we turn our analytical lens toward a fascinating question: why do people choose to study psychology?
Hi everyone, Wan here. I've always wondered about that. Psychology seems like such a popular major these days. What sparked this topic?
I came across information about the psychology program at Keio University's Faculty of Letters. It prompted me to consider a broader question: what drives humans to dedicate years of their lives to understanding the human mind?
That's a really interesting angle. I think a lot of us are curious about ourselves, right? Like, why do I feel this way? Why do people act like that?
Precisely. And that curiosity is the entry point. But today, we shall analyze the deeper psychological structures that transform simple curiosity into an academic pursuit. Let us begin our observation. First, let us examine the background. Psychology as an academic discipline has seen remarkable growth in enrollment across universities worldwide. At institutions like Keio University, students can explore diverse areas: cognitive psychology, social psychology, developmental psychology, and clinical applications.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It feels like everyone I know either studied psychology or considered it. There's something really appealing about it.
The appeal can be categorized into three primary drivers. First, what we call introspective utility, the desire to understand oneself. Second, social instrumentality, the belief that psychological knowledge improves interpersonal relationships. Third, professional identity, the aspiration to help others as a career.
Wait, can you break down introspective utility? That sounds a bit technical.
Of course. Introspective utility refers to the perceived value of self-knowledge. Humans have a fundamental drive to understand their own thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. When someone studies psychology, they gain frameworks and vocabulary to make sense of their internal experiences.
I get it now. So it's like having a map for your own mind? Instead of feeling lost in your thoughts, you have names for things and understand patterns?
An apt metaphor. This relates to what psychologists call coherence seeking, the human tendency to construct narratives that make life experiences meaningful. Psychology provides the building blocks for such narratives.
That really resonates with me. I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed by their emotions sometimes. Having a way to understand them must feel really empowering.
Indeed. Now, the second driver, social instrumentality, addresses another fundamental human need: social connection. Understanding psychology promises better relationships, improved communication, and enhanced ability to navigate complex social dynamics.
That makes total sense. Who wouldn't want to understand people better? It's like having a cheat sheet for social interactions.
However, we must observe an interesting paradox here. Many students enter psychology hoping to read minds or manipulate social outcomes, only to discover that psychology is actually a rigorous scientific discipline focused on statistical analysis, research methodology, and theoretical frameworks.
Oh, that's a good point. I think pop psychology and movies make it seem way more mystical than it actually is. The reality is probably a lot more scientific?
Precisely. This gap between expectation and reality is what we call attraction-reality discrepancy. It is not unique to psychology, but it is particularly pronounced because the subject matter, the human mind, is so intimately familiar, yet scientifically elusive. Now, let us delve deeper into the psychological mechanisms behind career choice itself. Why do people select certain fields of study? This question involves complex interactions between identity, social influence, and perceived self-efficacy.
Self-efficacy. That's about believing you can succeed at something, right?
Correct. Self-efficacy, a concept developed by psychologist Albert Bandura, refers to an individual's belief in their capacity to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance attainments. When choosing a major, people gravitate toward fields where they believe they can succeed.
So people choose psychology because they think, I'm good at understanding people, so I'll be good at this?
That is one factor. But there is also what we call identity congruence, the degree to which a career path aligns with one's self-concept. Someone who sees themselves as empathetic, curious, and introspective may feel that psychology fits their identity.
That's fascinating. It's like we're trying to find a career that matches who we already think we are.
However, we must also consider external influences. Social learning theory suggests that people are influenced by role models and social reinforcement. If someone has a family member in mental health, or has been positively impacted by therapy, they are more likely to pursue psychology.
That makes a lot of sense. I can see how seeing someone in a profession makes it feel more possible, more real.
There is also what researchers call subjective task value, the personal worth one assigns to a particular academic domain. This value has 4 components: intrinsic interest, utility value, attainment value, and perceived cost.
Could you explain those? I think I understand intrinsic interest, but the others...
Certainly. Intrinsic interest is genuine enjoyment of the subject. Utility value is how useful the knowledge is for future goals. Attainment value is how important the achievement is to one's identity. And perceived cost includes time, effort, and opportunity costs of pursuing that path. Let us now consider what the popularity of psychology reveals about modern society. The increasing enrollment in psychology programs is not merely an educational trend, it reflects broader societal shifts.
What kind of shifts are we talking about?
First, there is the mental health awareness movement. Society has become more open about discussing mental health, reducing stigma, and seeking psychological support. This normalization creates both demand for professionals and personal interest in the field.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. It feels like therapy and mental health are way more talked about now than when I was younger.
Second, we observe what sociologists call reflexive modernity, a condition where individuals must constantly reflect on and construct their own identities in an increasingly complex world. Psychology offers tools for this self-construction.
Reflexive modernity. That's a mouthful. Can you unpack that a bit?
In traditional societies, identity was largely inherited. Your role was determined by family, class, or community. In modern society, identity is a project. We must actively choose who we are. Psychology provides a framework for understanding and constructing that identity.
Wow, that's profound. So in a way, studying psychology is like trying to find solid ground in a world where everything keeps changing?
A perceptive observation. Third, there is the emotional labor phenomenon. Modern work increasingly requires managing emotions, both one's own and others. Psychology is perceived as valuable capital in this emotional economy.
That's so true. Even jobs that aren't technically psychology-related benefit from understanding people. Leadership, marketing, teaching, almost everything involves human interaction.
To summarize our observations, the choice to study psychology emerges from the intersection of personal curiosity, identity construction, social influence, and societal needs. It is both an introspective journey and a response to modern conditions.
I never realized there was so much behind such a common decision. It's like every psychology student is part of a bigger story about how we relate to ourselves and society.
Indeed. And perhaps the most revealing observation is this: the popularity of psychology reflects a society searching for meaning, connection, and self-understanding. The mirror we hold up to study others ultimately reflects our own collective needs.
That's beautifully put, New York. It makes me appreciate psychology in a whole new way, not just as a subject, but as a window into what we're all looking for.
Thank you for joining us in the Human Observation Lab. Until next time, observe deeply, analyze calmly, and remember, every human choice tells a story waiting to be understood.